Hello and welcome to this very special conversation with somebody who, how do I put it? I mean, if it's Australia and the art of batting, Sir Donald Bradman says he bats like me, come and watch him bat. And over a period of 2 decades, think about it, at the age of 19, he gets 200s, 99 gets 100, 2003 gets a 241, 2008 once again gets 100, 2011 gets a 73 and 82, which could well become hundreds. I mean, someone who I don't think has any parallel when it comes to batting in Australia. And everyone knows that this Indian side, if it has to win in Australia, it has to bat well. That's why I needed to understand from someone I can call a friend, a dear friend, my hero, Sachin Tendulkar, what he did and what this Indian team can learn and take from the master. Sachin, welcome to this conversation. Once again, it's Australia. 19 years you were, 19, I mean a teenager, and you went and got that 100 in Perth and that 100 in Sydney. So two questions. Mentally, how did you prepare? Because a Prithvi Shaw, Shubman Gill, all of these are youngsters who, if they listen to this, mentally, how did you prepare? And also, what is the art of batting in Australia that you employed or used in Sydney and Perth against a lethal fast bowling attack?
So let me start with my first tour of Pakistan. You know, that was a tough tour, and it was a proper bowling attack. Imran Wasim, Waqar, Abdul Qadir, Akif Javed, I thought played just one-day matches. But that was a proper bowling attack on a green top wicket. So especially I'm talking about Sialkot match. And then from there on, we went to New Zealand. Again, there were helpful tracks, Richard Hadley, Danny Morrison. We went to England after New Zealand. So there again, a decent bowling attack. So before going to Australia, I had played quality bowling attacks. And by then, I felt I was mentally prepared because I had also got my first 100 in England. Yeah. And we were able to save that game, and we kept the series alive. And that was something really, really big in my life, because for any batter, when you get your first 100, then you feel, okay, I've set the ball rolling. Now I need to continue with this. And once you've figured out that formula, then, you know, it's about being on your toes and not taking anything for granted. And I took a lot of pride in preparing myself. So before going to Australia, I was practicing with a rubber ball on a wet surface, so a concrete surface. So those wet rubber balls would really take off, and they would go at a reasonable pace. I would ask my friends to even throw from 17 yards. They were supposed to hit me. And those were the sessions where, you know, I felt it was a little bit out of the box, because normally you want to get in the nets and do your normal things. I was prepared to do whatever gave me a lot of satisfaction, enjoyment, and simultaneously I was preparing. I was learning to deal with different things. Because when it comes to Australia, everyone keeps talking about how steep the bounce is, how hard the surfaces are. So I had to prepare myself for that. But I would say I was mentally prepared because, you know, right from Pakistan to New Zealand, and when John Wright became our coach, I used to also, you know, teasingly tell John that, you know, you gave a peace of mind to me when I came into bat, although a school kid comes out to bat and all those kind of things. And that started from Pakistan, and it did not stop. So even when I went to Australia, I knew that the players are going to say something. But then, you know, you choose to ignore, and when you want to respond, then you respond. You don't have to respond every time. That's what I also learned on that tour. Maurya, let me tell you, I was playing in Perth, and I played a back foot defense. And everyone was standing quite far off, and we were not picking a single because the bowler was on his follow through. And Alan Border was, you know, rushing towards the ball. And I thought, you know, as a senior player, I would pick up the ball and pass it on to him. And he says, "Don't you touch the ball." And that was a big lesson to me. So after that, I decided, okay, whenever I play a dead defense, let them come and pick up the ball.
Fantastic. Fantastic. But Sachin, you were 19. Where did this idea of wet ball, training, concrete surface, where did all this come from?
Well, that happened when I was possibly 9, 10-year-old, because as kids, we would just want to have fun. We would play cricket, we would play football, uh, badminton, tennis, hockey, all those kind of things. And even in monsoons, nothing stopped us from playing, be it football or cricket. And with, those wet balls, everything would just take off. And at a decent pace, as I said earlier, we enjoyed those things. And that kind of kept us engaged. And it was engrossing, whatever sessions we used to have. We would compete, even within our friends, even before I had started playing serious cricket with season ball. We would compete hard. We would make each other's life difficult.
Now, coming to that Perth 100, Sachin, you've got to tell me this, because we keep talking about this Indian team and that batting will win this series. Bowling will stand up. Bumrah, Shami, etc. They will do well. Now, that Perth 100, give me a little bit of detail. I mean, that attack, Bruce Reid, Mike Whitney, Craig McDermott, if you go and see that Australian attack, 92, terrific attack, steep bounce, the whacker surface was better than what it is now in terms of lethal. It was the surface, as people would call it. Give us a sense of that 100, because people need to know from you what you did.
Can I say something here? What
everything.
I feel, people talk about steep bounce and pace. Steep bounce and pace, that means the good length spot for a bowler becomes smaller. It becomes that much tougher for a fast bowler to find the ideal spot. And if the batter goes out with a positive frame of mind and looking to score runs and not just keep blocking and leaving, there are plenty of scoring opportunities.
So is that an advice?
And I looked at it that way. I felt early on, it was all about being on top of the ball, because that is what we were told. But as the time went by, I felt my thinking also evolved. And I thought, why do you have to always get on top of the ball? When there is no third man, you can get under the ball and use their pace. So if they falter on the shorter side, then I'm going to go over gully, over slips. And even if I don't get it right, because of that pace and bounce, it's going to carry. So it was not about hitting hard. It was using their own pace and the bounce if they faltered on the shorter side.
Terrific.
If they are pitching the ball up. I was primarily a front foot player. I enjoyed getting on the front foot. So my initial movement also in Perth or most of the bouncy tracks was always forward. And if I felt the length was short, then I would go behind and, if I had to leave the ball or play a shot or just block it, whatever, I did that. But my initial movement was always going on the front foot. So that worked for me.
In fact, that was my follow-up question, Sachin. People talked up that bowling attack, McDermott, Reid, Whitney, and you were 19. I mean, people were sledging you and talking to you and all of that. Was there ever a thought that, oh, these are great bowlers in their home conditions? Can I manage? Did you ever encounter negativity, any kind of negativity?
No, not really. Not really. They were top class bowlers and I grew up watching them.
Yeah.
When I was a ball boy in 1987, 88, and then suddenly in 91, 92, I was playing against them. So I knew that once I was out there competing, nobody was going to look at my age. They were going to do all possible things to get me out, to send me back in the dressing room. And I was prepared to face those challenges.
Brilliant.
Right? It didn't matter. Whatever one says, as I said earlier, if you wish to respond, then you respond. And if you don't want to, you respond.
Fantastic.
So I felt that particular tour changed me as a player. It taught me a lot, not just technically, but also mentally, how to approach a big game. And if somebody says something, whether you respond to it or not, or you ignore. Because for how long can you keep responding? Responding doesn't mean you're being aggressive. You can be aggressive from within.
Brilliant. I'll come to
So,
this during that Sydney double hundred when Brad Williams and people were sledging at you. But now that we are on 92, my last question is, Sachin, tell us about that famous visit to your idol as well, the greatest cricketer to have played this game, Sir Donald Bradman. You went and met Sir Don. Sir Don told his wife that if there's anyone who comes close, look at this guy. And you went and met him, and something happened there. Tell us that story.
yeah, I mean, it was a big moment because I still remember from the hotel, both Wani was with me and we both decided, okay, just the two of us are driving there. Wani was driving and he said, I'm tense, I'm worried. What to talk to him about batting? You are a batter, so you need to talk to him. And I said, no, Aussie first. I'm going to follow you. Whatever you have to start the conversation and I'm going to follow you. So Shane Warne goes there inside and then, we started talking a little bit. And then we naturally, the obvious question was, Sir Don, if you were batting in today's era, what would you have averaged? So he says, he took about 10 seconds to think. And then he says, maybe around 70. Obvious reaction was, why only 70? Why not 99? He says, come on, kid, it's not bad for a 90-year-old man. That was his response.
Tremendous.
So he enjoyed watching cricket, and he thought, cricket in the 90s was competitive. Things had changed, field settings had changed, and he enjoyed watching that. So he was up with it. And those were special moments, without any
Fantastic. Sachin, 99, as skipper, it was tough because some horrible umpiring decisions, shoulder LBW and all of that happened. But even then you got 100. Even then you got multiple 50s. And then came Sydney. So if I could take you there, because what stands out for me in that 2003-4 tour, it can happen to anyone. You were in very good sync from India. All of a sudden you got out in Melbourne, you got a couple of, knocks where you did not get runs. And then it all boiled down to the mind and that patience, giving up on ego. And it can happen to Virat, it can happen to Pujara, it can happen to anyone of the current team. Can you tell me about Sydney 241? Because for me, that stands out mentally, how you approached that innings.
See, before we went to Australia, I was in a very good nick. We played Australia in India, and also New Zealand was there as a third team. We played a tri series. I had scored runs. So when I went to Australia, when I was booming with confidence, and I felt this is the tour where I'm going to make a big statement. I had done well on 99 tour in the Test series. Yeah. But the team hadn't been able to put up big totals on the board, and it just did not work out. So here I was determined to, we had a good team, we had a good bowling attack, and I thought if we could start on a big note, then we can push them on back foot. It's a 4-test series. If we play the first test well, things can change for us. I got a bad decision, as you said earlier, but those are the things which are behind. But that decision affected me. It was a big mistake, I felt. Second test match, again, I went to play a big shot. I got out to Andy Bickle. In the second innings, I had a important partnership with Rahul Dravid, and we won that test. We go to Melbourne. I was still feeling good about it. But somewhere, that decision had affected me. It had disturbed me mentally. So in Sydney, I scored runs again in the second innings. I scored some 44 something runs, and trying to play a big shot of Brad Williams, I get out. Which was discomforting. First innings, I get out to Brett Lee, flick down the leg.
Yeah.
First ball. I mean, I don't know how I nicked that ball, and I could actually see that Gilchrist was waiting for the ball to come. He was standing so far behind. So those kind of things had disturbed me mentally. But my conversations with my brother would help a lot. And while we were discussing, somewhere deep within, I knew, because every time you play a ball, the sound that you hear is all about how confident you are. And the sound wasn't that bad. The sound was okay. So I still felt this is not the end. This is just a bend along the way. That's okay. And after my conversation with my brother, I realized that there was no weakness as such. If at all there was any weakness, then that weakness was about shot selection. So I need uh, discipline to be in the driving seat, and my natural instincts, they have to be sitting in passenger seat. So my discipline, come what may, even if I was batting 70, 120 or 155, I was always going to have discipline as my driver in that innings.
Fantastic.
And the challenge which my brother threw at me pre-test match was try and stay not out. I don't think any bowler can get you out. It is because of your shot selection. And I took up that challenge and I said, okay, I'm not going to get out this test match. And about not playing cover drive, it happened there and then on the field. I had not decided this earlier. So I went there and I suddenly realized that all the bowlers are bowling, in that corridor on the sixth stump, not even fourth stump. So I said, okay, fine. If you're going to keep bowling away from me and frustrate me, I'm going to take on this challenge and I'm going to frustrate you. It's 1 versus 11. Let's see who loses patience first. I'm not going to play a single cover drive. And that's how it happened there and then on the field. It wasn't planned.
Wow.
It happened there and then on the field.
I didn't know this. Is it that you have to hold your ego back, however big you are, even if you're Tendulkar or Kohli or Smith or whoever, I mean, one of the greatest batsmen? Is it about when, say, the pink ball moving around, that's when you've got to dig in and hold your ego back and not play certain shots? Is it about the mind? How do you explain that?
See, whatever I have seen with the pink ball test match, you have to be extremely selective, extremely aware of the clock. And whenever the sun is going down, the temperature drops. And before dew sets in, when the grass is nice and cool, there is going to be little extra lateral movement of the surface. And that is when you don't just respect the bowler, but you also respect conditions.
Wow.
So here in a pink ball test match, your first session could well be the one where you cash in. You take little more chances and you play more aggressively. Maybe in Australia, the sun goes down later than what it did in Kolkata. Kolkata, literally by 4:30 or so, it was dark.
Yeah.
So from 4:30 to I felt 6 o'clock, 6:30 or so was a critical time where the batsman had to respect not just the bowler, but also the surface and play out, build those partnerships there. And then, once the ball got wet, then you can start playing little more shots. So I think maybe towards the end of the second session and the beginning of the last session might be that phase where the ball does a little extra and you need to just hold back your aggression and natural instincts and be a little more disciplined.
Fantastic.
So also, I remember my conversation there in Kolkata. I had said to the team management, and of course Virat was also there. So I had said, whatever I have seen so far, I feel if there are 2 wickets, don't look to score those 20 runs extra. When the ball is seaming around in the evening, you are better off declaring at that time and getting there at top 3 batters.
Nice. Okay.
That works much better. So you might be short by 20 runs, but you would have possibly saved 120 runs there.
How important do you think it is for a Virat or a Pujara or a Rahane or any of these current batters that, to leave a mark? I mean, why am I doing this interview today? Because over 20 years, you have left a legacy that perhaps will remain unrivaled. How important is it for any of these people, even Australians, a Smith, or a Manas, Labuschagne or anyone to perform in a series like this, Sachin?
Without any doubt, I can tell you that the whole world is waiting for this series. And, especially after pandemic, everyone is looking forward to these kind of activities. And this is without any doubt the biggest series, I would say. Yes, the Ashes were also big, but this is as big, I would say. And not just the batters, but I feel even the bowlers, they'll also be looking forward to this. It's not about only scoring big runs. It's also about not allowing opposition to score big. If you have to win test matches, you have to score big and not allow them to score big if they bat first. I think it's all about, keeping them under 300. It all depends on the kind of surfaces they would play on. But ideally, under 300, I would say, if it's a normal track, sometimes you get really helpful tracks, and there the numbers change. And if India is batting, then you need to get closer to 400 in the first innings.
Okay, I will now throw my 2 short balls at you. You will hit them for over third man. Fine. First one, of the many hundreds that you've got in Australia, you've got to choose one for me and give me a reason why. And why are you picking that particular 100? Whether it's the 2 in 92 or 99 or 2000, whatever. Give me one and tell me why. And the second one is, I've asked you this 200 times, each time you've left the ball.
Let me first answer you the first question. Uri, I think without any doubt, 1992, my Perth 100. Because at that time I was only 19, and you go to Australia, you get 100 at Perth, and that was a good bowling attack.
So that was boy to man.
Yeah, I mean, then I felt after that I was prepared to play in any part of the world, no problems. Because in Australia during that period we had also played a tri-series, and tri-series happened after the third test. So this was a 5-test series. So we played 3 test matches. Then there was a tri-series, India, Australia, West Indies. And then we went to Adelaide and Perth. So in between, when West Indies played the tri-series, they had Curtly Ambrose, Malcolm Marshall, Patrick Patterson, Anderson Cummins. So they had a good bowling attack. And I got to play quality fast bowling there also in the middle. And that changed me completely. And after I got 100 at Perth, Saurav teases me because when I was batting I was going to bat the next day in Sydney, I used to carry my match back to the room. Suddenly at 2:30 a.m., Saurav is watching me lying in bed quietly, pretending to be asleep. And I'm doing my drills in front of the mirror, that this is how I'm going to bat tomorrow. So he teases me, and we continued sharing a room. And Saurav, even when I got 100 there in Perth, Saurav was very much there. So we discussed all these things. So I would say Perth has to be the one which was a defining moment for me in my career, because, after that, I felt a different player.
Wow. Wow. I mean, you've been my hero, so no question. Finally, I've thrown at this question at you 200 times. 10 innings, 134, comes to you, goes to Australia, 400s in that series. Will you give me something today? What did you tell Virat Kohli? Comes back from England in 2014, goes to you. You guys do something. He goes to Australia, 400s, defines him and changes him. Will you give me something? Something happened there.
He's coming back after first test match, so you can ask him for sure.
This is the 20th time you've left this ball. I'll keep asking you this.
Stays between us. Yes, I'm glad I was able to share whatever I felt with him, and it kind of helped, I'd like to believe. And he's coming back, so you can ask him.
Okay, I hope he comes back after a very good first test match, but I hope you listen to this conversation and you will know that why this man is the greatest to have played this game. The greatest. Maybe Sir Donald Bradman is the only one who, yes, but otherwise, this is the greatest. This is the best you will get from anybody ever on India versus Australia. Sachin Tendulkar, what you've given us are memories of a lifetime. Before this interview, I went back to YouTube and just was watching, and I was telling my folks, at 19, someone was scoring these runs at Perth, for God's sake. Now, you were blessed, but with that blessing, you worked the hardest I ever know. That mesh created the legend of Sachin Tendulkar. Stay like you are. And as I said, you will always remain a serious inspiration to me. Thank you very much for speaking.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello everyone, this is Rahul Kamal here. Hope you enjoyed this video. For the latest news and analysis, like and subscribe the India Today YouTube channel, and don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.